Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. Elly Young is a passionate, alcohol free life coach and hormone balancing specialist. After spending a decade in the cycle of gray area drinking while raising her family, Elly took control of her health and broke free from alcohol, experiencing a profound transformation. Now, with over 3.5 years of alcohol free living, she thrives in her 40s as a certified coach and an expert in hormone balancing through cycle syncing and biohacking techniques to repair cellular damage. Elly is committed to helping women reclaim their health and vitality through her online courses and one on one coaching. She empowers women to break free from alcohol dependence, master their hormones, and reach their optimal wellness goals. Elly firmly believes that women deserve to feel vibrant and energized at any age, and that turning 40 doesn't have to mean a slow decline. With her guidance, clients discover that their 40s can be their healthiest and most fulfilling years, yet often feeling better than they did in their 30s. Yay! And sometimes 20s, right? Teenage years too.
Absolutely, right? The sky's the limit.
I tell you, so since I quit drinking, I feel like I'm back in my childhood where I'm having so much fun. I'm out with my kids. We're running around in the park. We're at weddings, all dancing together with just water in my hand this time. And
Yeah.
it's just a blast. And I'm sure you've experienced the same for yourself too. And I just want to say congratulations, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I know it is. It's kind of like the best kept secret that, we've relied on alcohol for so long, thinking that's where like the joy to be is. And truth is, it's actually in the alcohol free, like everything we were after, that joy, that connection, that intuition, it's all there alcohol free and it's better than ever.
Yes, and I actually just celebrated my 7th year on Saturday, so I'm
Wow.
excited. So this is the perfect timing for us to talk together because we're just celebrating every day. I think one day at a time. We're celebrating every day, and we're just living life to the fullest, and that's what it's all about. Alcohol free, of course.
Yeah. Well, so you're double my years. And I think that's interesting for people to listen to that you're still so as excited about it 7 years out. And I am at 3.5. I think that's really cool because people think that you're always battling it. And it's like, no, it's quite the opposite. I feel so incredibly grateful and it just keeps getting better. It's a total mind shift from like this idea that like, oh, I'm constantly like one drink away from it all falling apart. And it's like, no, actually, I never even think about it. I'm just still so inspired with how incredible life is alcohol free.
Absolutely. Now, Ellie, you mentioned transforming from a daily drinker to being alcohol free for, of course, over 3 years. Can you
Yeah.
just share a bit about your personal journey and what inspired you to become an alcohol free coach?
Yeah. So I was a typical drinker. Everything was normalized. There was nothing in my behavior that was really what anyone would point out. No one ever had any conversations with me like, oh, you need to stop. But it was daily and it got worse during the pandemic. And it definitely shifted from much more of like a social celebratory thing to a coping mechanism. And I think a lot of women might fall into this trap very, very slowly. It feels very benign. It feels very normalized and safe until it isn't, until you recognize that the anxiety that you're feeling, the depression that you're feeling is like chronic and you're drinking to feel better, but there is no better anymore. It's just kind of a low level anxious, depressive state. And I wouldn't even have characterized myself as that. But I didn't realize how much better I could feel until alcohol was out of the picture. And to be honest, I really tried a dry January in 2021. It was just coming out of the pandemic, and I was pickled, and I was really just doing it for superficial reasons. I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to kind of reset and detox and cleanse. And I failed. I actually didn't even make it through that first dry January. I found it so challenging. My thoughts, I was constantly consumed with like how many days till I can drink. And I quickly changed my like no drinking in January to like, I'll just drink on the weekends. And then I would have like two drinks. I tried to limit myself. And I was, again, doing mental gymnastics, constantly thinking about it. And it wasn't fun. And I would still feel terrible after the two drinks. So I was like, gosh, this was so much harder than I expected. And that's when I actually sought outside help and I started reading all the quit lit out there. And I decided that I wanted to double down on this. And, I had hired a fitness trainer before, I've hired someone to work on my diet before, but the idea of hiring a coach to work on my relationship with alcohol felt very like shameful. But I did it, and it was a complete game changer. It really helped me navigate the next year living alcohol free in a much less awkward way, because I knew I wanted to do it. I knew I felt so much better living that way, but I needed someone to help me like break the social norms and do it in a way that I felt okay with.
Yes, thanks so much for sharing that. And it's so true. I was just discussing this with somebody the other day that the culture,
Yeah.
it's the substance that everyone's asking why you are not partaking in when you go to a function. And trust me, alcohol is at every function, wedding, funeral, even
Yes.
child's birthday parties when they're
Yes.
turning 1 years old, right?
Yes.
There's alcohol is everywhere. And so it's just part of the culture, they say, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be. Why do we have to partake in something like that? It's just the influence, I'm telling you. So I'm so happy that you're able to get that help, someone to guide you through that. And now look where you're at now. Now you're helping people yourself.
Yeah, I don't think people recognize that it's really not their fault when they decide, so many people live in the dark and don't ever confront their relationship with alcohol. And then the ones that do, it's marred in all this like shame and like, oh, like what's wrong with me? Why can everyone else drink and I can't? And why do I have these bad outcomes when other people don't? And it's like alcohol is a poison. It's really hurting everybody. And if you are one of the lucky ones, I would say, who is starting to examine their relationship with it and is feeling that kind of tug of war with like, I really want to change, but I can't. I want to encourage you that it's not your fault. That is the nature of an addictive substance. And you've been conditioned since you were a small child to drink this substance. And it's deep, deep in your subconscious. And so what you're really fighting is old neuroplastic pathways in your brain, and you're trying to carve a new pathway, and that's awkward, that's clunky, there's a lot of friction there. And so what we really do in my coaching programs is to like drop all the shame and get really curious and compassionate, and then just say, yeah, like what are these thoughts that you're telling yourself about why you need alcohol, why you think it's necessary? And we actually poke holes in that, like, is that really true? Like, let's look at that. Like, what is this really doing to your body? Does it really help you relax? No, it's actually jacking up your cortisol, jacking up your adrenaline, and it's leaving you more anxious and rattled than before. So like, what would really help? And it's like maybe a walk around the block, maybe some fresh air, some sunshine. And so that's what we do, is we break it down. We go right to the source, your subconscious thoughts, and we chip away at it, and we change. When you change what you believe, you change how you feel, and then you change how you behave. And it happens really organically. And instead of this like willpower battle with your conscious and subconscious.
Yeah, you'll see yourself in a flow state. It just
Yes.
makes everything is fluid and it goes like the way it's supposed.
Yes.
Now, how does alcohol specifically impact women's health, particularly in relationship to hormones and hormone balance? And, you know, I don't know, I'm 43.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm trying to get pregnant again, but I know that menopause is coming, perimenopause is almost there. Why
Yeah.
is it important for women to be aware of these effects when it comes to the hormones?
Yeah, I really think there needs to be like a public service announcement. So this is
Yeah.
me doing it for as many people out there listening. Um, Alcohol really disrupts our hormone balance, and one of the biggest reasons is that it disrupts our sleep so significantly. And when we aren't sleeping and aren't getting quality hours, it raises our cortisol. And that is kind of the root hormone that causes a lot of the other hormone imbalance in our body. When our cortisol is raised, it raises our blood sugar, it raises our insulin, and then that kind of cascade effect lowers your estrogen, lowers your progesterone. And so the balance of those hormones gets thrown off. And it's a really intricate balance. They are fluctuating all month long. And it's really the ratio between your estrogen and your progesterone that allows you to feel good as a woman. Our different phases we're designed to feel a little different throughout each of the month. And when those hormones are kind of off kilter, we don't feel great. And we start to get a lot of symptoms that we would probably characterize as like, oh, that's just part of being a woman. It's just normal PMS. But as you get older, it starts to get worse and worse because our hormones are on the decline. And so alcohol really just exacerbates these symptoms. And we are left feeling even worse than before.
Yes, and I remember those times where I would definitely drink a lot and not sleep properly. At least I thought I was sleeping.
Yeah.
Oh, I was not sleeping. I'd wake up with anxiety and just
Yes.
ickiness, and I know that it affected my body later on in life.
Yes.
Now I'm okay. Now I'm much better because I know how to take care of myself. But it took some examining, and
Yes.
like, what am I doing to myself? So,
Yes.
yeah. Now, can you actually explain what cycle syncing is and how it helps women balance their hormones after quitting alcohol?
Sure. So cycle syncing is really cool. It is essentially tuning in and creating a lot of awareness around your cycle and understanding what the hormones are doing throughout the different phases of the month. And then you tailor your lifestyle, your nutrition, your exercise to actually nourish those hormones. So it's a real departure from like traditional dieting or like exercise culture where it's just like eat as little as you can. The goal is to be skinny, low carbohydrate and flat belly and push your body, to like with exercise. It's a completely different method. It is literally like, what does my body actually need right now? And when you work in alignment with what your hormones need, you feel 10 times better and you actually get much better results because you're not fighting against your own body's natural chemistry. It was a complete game changer for me post alcohol because again, as perimenopause is starting to happen, and both what happens in perimenopause is first progesterone takes a big dive, and that's where you experience lots of bad PMS like symptoms. Estrogen is also on the decline, but it happens at a much slower rate. Where we're more vulnerable with estrogen is actually called estrogen dominance. And that is coming from our toxic world. It's coming from the alcohol we drink, the stressful lives we live, the plastics, the pesticides, all of the toxins that are in our food supply and our air and the products we use. Unfortunately, we live in very toxic worlds, and that is raising the estrogen in our bodies. And so as our progesterone's dipping and our estrogen's going up, it further exacerbates that gap. And that's where we really, really suffer. And so cycle syncing is really like, let's fine tune this little ratio as much as we can holistically with nutrition, with our lifestyle, and really just tuning into our bodies and actually being like, I love you. I'm going to take care of you. I'm not going to fight with you. I'm actually going to give you what you need.
Oh, yes, yes. So I was so proud of my husband. He said to me, I think I want to go back to breathing exercises with you. I'm like, "Yes."
That
For a man to say that,
is amazing.
a stubborn man for that
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
I was so excited. Yes, yes, because his body was letting him know. My body lets me know every day, Gina, you need to take a break. You need
Yeah.
to step away from your computer and you need to go ahead and take care of your body, whether
Yeah.
that's stretching, breathing, taking a walk, maybe just sitting down and having a nice lunch without any screens in front of
Yeah.
me. Sometimes we do the screen and eat, or we're eating in front of our desk. But it's important. I love what you said about we need to just listen to our bodies. Our bodies will tell us what to do. So,
Yes.
yeah. And you mentioned biohacking to heal years of cellular damage after quitting alcohol. Now,
Yes.
what are some biohacking techniques that women can actually go ahead and use to support their healing journey?
Yeah, I don't want anyone to be intimidated by that term because I think people think you're like doing a lot of blood tests and taking a lot of expensive supplements. And these are actually just daily practices that you can incorporate that turn on your own body's kind of natural healing mechanisms, your immune system, and regrowth and repair. And they're really simple. They involve like detox, they involve using hormetic stress, which is the good stress, the kind of stress that challenges your body. And again, it turns on these mechanisms. So, cold plunging is one of them. And again, if you don't have, I actually own a cold plunge. It's something that I invested in after all the money I saved not drinking. And, but if you don't have a cold plunge, you can jump in, the ocean, a river, a lake, a cold pool, or even a cold shower. At the end of your shower, turn on the water and blast yourself as much as you can tolerate it for as long as you can. And you're going to get a huge dopamine boost. that lasts. And you can also do heat therapy. So heat therapy can be done with like sauna, hot yoga classes, just your own hot shower. And I always recommend dry brushing before you do that to like open up all your detox pathways. Detox is not something that you should just do post big holiday weekend or post drinking vacation, things like that. It's something you can be doing daily. And so I even consider daily detox a biohacking strategy. And so I incorporate a lot of that into my hormone balancing coaching, which I've actually got a program going on right now. It's called the Balance Challenge. And it's where I take women through a month of cycle syncing and doing all of the things that are going to help you balance your hormones. And detox is a huge piece of that. I also incorporate a lot of intermittent fasting. So if people are familiar with fasting and whether or not it's worked for you or not, this is fasting tailored specifically for women, and it's in line with your hormonal needs. So there are very specific phases of your cycle where you're hormonally suited and your body will actually feel good fasting. And then there's times when you're like, absolutely not. And specifically, that is the back half of your cycle, your late luteal phase. So if you have a 28-day cycle, that's day 20 to 28, or until you start to menstruate. And that is when your progesterone is peaking. Progesterone does not like stress. So we don't want to stress our bodies at that time with really intense exercise or something stressful like fasting. Fasting does create that natural hormetic stress that generates lots of repair and healing in your body, but it's too much for progesterone. Progesterone actually needs glucose to thrive. So we want to eat lots of nature's carbs during that phase. We incorporate lots of sweet potatoes. It is not a green light to eat French fries and pizza and ice cream. I'm so sorry. But if you can work in as many kind of the nature's carbs as possible, you're going to feel so much better. And you're going to be able to eliminate your PMS symptoms. I mean, game changer. Like I used to get super sore boobs. I used to rage out at my family. And then I started cycle syncing and I was like, okay, I might be a little more heightened emotionally, but it's more of like a sweet heightened emotion instead of like a I'm seeing red kind of emotion.
Hey, I've been there too.
Yeah.
Now that's so again, repeat exactly when we should be eating those leafy greens, just earthy stuff, so that way
Yeah.
we're not feeling our
Oh,
PMS symptoms so much. When is that
sure.
again?
So that's the late luteal phase. That's days 20 to 28
Ah,
of your cycle. So I divide a lot of times if you're using like a period tracker app, it'll be really general. It'll be like the first half of your cycle is all of the follicular phase and the back half is the luteal. I divide it much more into like 5 sections. We've got the menstrual phase, which is days 1 through 5, the follicular phase, days 6 through 10-ish. Ovulation phase is like 10 to 15. And then let's see, 16 to 20 is the early luteal phase. And then the back half or the last half is 20 to 28 is your late luteal phase. So each of those phases are hormonally different from one another. And so we cycle in and out of different nutrition, different exercise, and different just kind of energetics about like how you should be working, how you should be socializing. And so it kind of in the front half of the cycle, estrogen is on the rise. So we do specific things to nourish estrogen as well as detox that estrogen, because we talked about how much excess estrogen we're getting from the toxins in our world. Detox is really, really key. Not a lot of people know that you need to detox estrogen through the liver, which again is why cutting alcohol is so incredibly important, because if your liver is busy detoxing alcohol, it can't detox the excess estrogen out of your body or any other excess toxins. So that is why we get flooded with toxins when we're drinking alcohol. Um, Estrogen loves a low carbohydrate diet. It loves healthy fats. It loves specific seeds. If we could get into seed cycling if you want. So the seeds that it likes are flax and pumpkin seeds. So, and then in the back half, we continue to work on detoxing estrogen, but we nourish progesterone. Progesterone loves nature's carbohydrates. Essentially, there's lots of specific foods, but the seeds that are great for progesterone are sesame, and sunflower. And so seed cycling is something we do that is very cool. And one thing I should mention too about the detoxing estrogen, one of the easiest things you can do, cruciferous veggies. Try to get 2 cruciferous veggies a day. The easiest ones for me are cauliflower, riced cauliflower. I keep a couple of frozen bags of it around at all times, and broccoli. And I hit my broccoli in the air fryer, a little olive oil, a little nutritional yeast, salt, and it makes it kind of like crunchy. And those 2 cruciferous veggies are so incredibly healthy for the liver. They're going to help you metabolize the estrogen out of your body and promote detox. And that's a simple one that you can be doing daily.
Wow, I hope everyone took note.
I know it's a
There's some
lot.
good information, great information, and very beneficial. Now let me ask you another question. When is the best time then for us to exercise during our cycle time?
Yeah. So as your estrogen is peaking, your energy levels are going to peak as well. So that's why right around mid-month when you're ovulating, we feel really good. Estrogen gives us a lot of fire. It gives us a lot of power, a lot of creativity. That's why we're more social. We're more open and energetic during ovulation. So that's exactly how I would build my exercise routines, as I would slowly build up in energy, and then I peak in like HIIT workouts, strength training. Estrogen is also great for muscle mass building. So that's when you want to be like doing the heaviest weights if you are into weightlifting, which I encourage all women to do in their 40s, because we are losing muscle mass. As estrogen declines, so does our muscle mass. So we need to go heavier weights. Think heavier weights, lower reps. So you should be doing 6 to 8 reps instead of like these 10 to 15 like low weight high rep intervals. Go the other direction. Try and just do like 6 to 8 with a really heavy weight. You're not going to bulk up, I promise, because your estrogen is going down. And then as you enter the early luteal phase, you can, again, you're still in that little more of that intense phase, but as you get into the late luteal, you're going to want to dial back the intensity of your workouts and focus more on things like yoga, walking. Movement is still critical. We don't want to ever not be moving. And I like to say, shift away from exercise, because that comes with this like I have to, and it feels like this burden. It feels like and it comes from this fear that what happens if I don't work out? You know, a lot of women feel shame. I try to shift my clients into thinking like movement is beautiful, and tune into this energy of like, I get to move my body. How awesome is that? And movement is the number one way you can lower your blood sugar. And so if you are just, even when we work at desks like this all day, I encourage my clients to set a little timer on your watch or your phone to go off once an hour. I know that seems aggressive, but you shouldn't be sitting for more than an hour straight at a time. Get up, do 1.5 minutes of just movement, whether that's dancing, whether it's taking a walk around the block, jumping jacks, and that's going to help lower your blood sugar throughout the day. And especially if you can't get to the gym, if you do this throughout the day, that is what we're battling as we get older too, is just blood sugar on the rise. And so the more we can just use movement to lower it, it's going to be much healthier for us.
Oh my goodness. Yes, movement is important and the body will tell you. Heck, I was just sharing with somebody the other day that you sitting down hurts.
Yeah.
Laying down in bed hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
why am I waking up sore? First off, the lady sold us a wrong mattress. I told her I wanted a plush, and I know my type of mattress. Like, no,
Yeah.
this kind, it's going to be good. Over time, it's going to be plush. No,
Yeah.
it's still hard and hurting my
Oh no.
it's time to find a new mattress. But anyway, I was saying that it's so important for movement.
Yes.
Walking, it's just if it's just even 10 minutes, taking
Yes.
time to do something is better than nothing. As humans, we're not meant to be sedentary in front of our desk. We're meant to be moving.
Yeah.
Like this world has created us to just be still. I mean, it's good
Yes.
to be still when you're trying to pause and take some time for yourself, but I'm talking about movement. It's good
Yes.
to take a break, do some arm circles, breathe,
Yes.
stretch,
Yes.
and it's fun. You feel better afterward too.
Yes. Another amazing tip, that there's lots of studies coming out about this now, but it's essentially just taking a 10-minute walk post meal,
Mm.
so within the hour after you've eaten, if you could just take a 10-minute walk, that's going to lower your blood sugar by 30 to 40%, which is really significant. I actually have a big background in diabetes. I worked for 10 years in diabetes, helping patients monitor their blood sugar and insulin. And so that's where a lot of my nutrition information comes from is around blood sugar. And I can't believe that something as simple as walking for 10 minutes 3 times a day, again, especially if you're someone who's not going to be able to get to the gym, change this idea that you have to work out into more like, I just want to make movement a regular part of my day and make it joyful, make it things you like, go for a walk with your kids, put on fun music, dance, and get away from this idea that it has to be like in a gym or a class or like running, just find things you enjoy. And if you can get out in nature and you can socialize while you're doing it, you're winning.
Yeah, sometimes I see myself just dancing in my room, playing my favorite music and just letting the
Mhm.
what I mean, it's so good for that release of whatever stuck energy is inside.
Yes.
Dance is so amazing. I love it. Actually, we're going to be doing Zumba today. Oh, I love dancing. That's one of my favorite things to
Yes,
do.
I love Zumba. I have the funniest Zumba story. So after I had my first baby, he was a rooster and he would wake up at like 5 a.m. and I would come downstairs like, oh, like all zonked out. And I would watch this Zumba infomercial. It was back when they sold the like workouts on DVD.
Yeah, I
And
had
I
those.
bought the like mega pack that was like 8 disc Zumba series. And that's how I lost my baby weight was like Zumba like in my house. And I Zumbaed so hard that I actually broke a bone in the ball of my foot from like planting and like twisting off my foot.
You were having fun.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny that I had like a Zumba injury.
Oh, that reminds me, it was in 2012, right? Then they were selling those
Yes,
DVDs. Yes, I got this
yes,
in Beto, right? Was the guy's
yes,
name? I
yes,
remember. I remember the girl in the back. Her name was Gina, so that's why I
yes.
remember all their names.
It was so fun. I think I still have them. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And you can find them on YouTube, people. If you cannot find them online, it's on YouTube.
Yes. It was so much fun. I even had my friends come over one of my birthdays and I made them Zumba with me for my birthday.
Oh my goodness. Now let me ask you, did you have one of those, what is those little platform things that you can just go ahead and
The
exercise and do like squats on as
the
well and
step.
the
Yes,
Moroccan weights and stuff?
I do. I got into all the DVD workouts. Do you remember Billy Blanks and like the
Yes.
kickboxing videos?
Hardcore stuff.
Yes, I did that for that had a funny name too. I forget what he called those videos.
I,
I did that, and then I have a step, like you said, the little aerobic step where you could like build
yeah.
it, make it taller. Yeah, I love
That's
all
so
that stuff.
much fun. Oh, I can talk about exercise forever because that's one of my other passions too, is working
Yeah.
out. So shifting to reconnecting with authentic self. After eliminating alcohol, many women struggle to find their authentic selves. At least I knew I did. Like, who am I? Why am I here? Who is this Gina? I don't know who she is. How can they actually reconnect with their intuition and purpose? And what steps do you recommend for this process?
Yeah, well, I think cutting alcohol is the key to that. I think it muffles that voice inside us that is probably dissatisfied, that probably has, fears, that probably has anxieties, and that we're just using alcohol for a long time to cope and to get through these things. And again, we're doing it under the guise that it's joyful and that this is fun and that this is how you connect and you live your best life, but it's really just masking a lot that is going on in our bodies and our intuition that is trying to tell us like, hey, that anxiety you feel, that stress you feel, it's because something's not right in your life. And it's okay for things to not be right. And when we constantly numb it and dull it out, we never get a chance to like fix it. And so going alcohol free, it feels really raw at first because all of a sudden all that stuff is very loud. And you're like, oh my gosh, like a lot of people can't get through that part because they're just like, I don't want to feel all these things. I'm so used to not feeling this stuff. And so the more you lean into that discomfort and you say, okay, what is this truly trying to tell me? Is it causes that inertia, it causes that friction in you to change those things. Maybe you change your job. Maybe you're not in a healthy relationship. Maybe things in your family need to shift. And when you do that and you do it with a clear head and a clear mind, that intuition only gets louder and you only start to rely on it and trust yourself more because your body does know. Your intuition does really know. And so I love to tell my clients, like, one of the best ways to get back in touch with that voice is to spend time in nature and to really go out and try to experience the awe, AWE, all around you. Not only is awe like an incredible healing emotion that we can experience, you don't have to go to like the Grand Canyon or see some magnificent sunset to access it. You can find it all around you. And usually you start to experience this a couple weeks into sobriety because you're like, your pleasure circuits start to reset, that fog lifts, and your senses are all alive because you're no longer dulling them. You're no longer dulling your prefrontal cortex. You're actually taking in more information and with all of your senses. And so I tell them to go for these awe walks where they go outside, try and experience it with all 5 of your senses, where you're like, I'm feeling the wind brush through my fingertips. I am noticing like the shadows and the leaves and the smells. I'm looking for things and I'm listening for all the sounds all around you. It's best to do this like early in the morning when there's not so many cars and kids and dogs. But tuning into that and like allowing yourself to truly feel is an incredible healing part of this journey.
Yes, yes. And then bring a little journal with you and write down how
Mhm.
you feeling during those moments.
Yep.
I did that a lot. I love nature. And even to this day, just being out there, I just feel like I'm in a different world. And you're
Yeah.
right. Go where there's less children, there's less people around. Animals are okay. I had some times where I was
Yeah.
hiking and there's some cows on my trail, and I'm like, "Hello, cow.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
you?"
Yeah.
This huge cow. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so nature is very, very important. Now let's talk about your podcast. Tell us about your
Sure.
podcast and how it serves as a platform for sharing stories and empowering women on their journey to optimal health.
Yeah, so it's called Find Myself Free. I'm almost a year into it, and I started during a sober October last year, and I took my listeners through like a sober October, and that's a great episode to listen to. There's also a dry January series that I did that takes you through week by week about what you should be experiencing in these times, the mental cravings that come up, and how to kind of conquer those. And it was really a place for me to share my story and my journey and to really relate to people. And it's also, I think, sharing, and you probably experience this with your podcast, sharing is a really incredibly powerful healing tool because it removes the shame in any of the part of my story. And again, I think the shame does such a disservice to people when it comes to changing their relationship to alcohol because they don't want to admit that there's something wrong with them, that they're different from everybody else because alcohol's been so normalized. But the fact of the matter is, it's a toxic substance, and more people than you know would like to drink less. I don't know anybody who wants to drink more, right? Everybody's like, I wish I drank less. I don't always want to drink. It's so much social pressure. And so kind of when you can rise above that, you really do start operating on a different level. And that's what I want to kind of get people curious about, is that like when your brain's no longer under the influence of a neurotoxin, you have a huge advantage over people. You are living on another level, and it only gets better. You only get healthier, and you only get more motivated, more in touch with yourself, more inspired. You're only going to set a better example for your family, your loved ones, who are just going to watch you thrive and just keep rising.
It's beautiful. It reminds me, my husband brought apple cider. So we celebrated with the kids. We all got a little bottle of Martinelli's apple cider, and we cheers to my sobriety.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, I love apple cider, always have. And so do these little
Yeah.
kids. They're the ones that are asking at the weddings, excuse me, can we get more apple cider? Can we get
Yeah.
more apple
Yeah. Yeah.
cider?
That's
Well,
so
stick to
cute.
apple cider, kid.
Yeah.
No alcohol. Just
Yeah.
kidding. Yeah. So, what future trends do you see emerging in these realms of alcohol-free living, hormone health, and women's wellness?
Well, I definitely see alcohol is on the downturn. The younger generations are not drinking as much as our generations. What's interesting though is people aren't self-medicating any less. I do see them just coping with different things, the legalization of weed is becoming another like really just common thing. And then the psilocybin, like lots of people are microdosing and stuff. So I do think that the conversations are going away that are about like what is really going on with people and this need to self-medicate, and um trying to trying to learn how to take better care of ourselves and to build in things that are actually going to I call it dopamine stacking. And this is like the next level of my alcohol free coaching. I call the beginning part is like subconscious cracking, where we're like getting into our subconscious and like finding out the beliefs that keep us craving alcohol. And then we do habit hacking, so we do like physical, like breaking down the drinking habit and replacing it with new ones. And the new habits are the dopamine stacking. It's building things in that incrementally stack our dopamine so that we feel good. And then we learn sustainable things that aren't drugs, alcohol, sugar, carbohydrates, processed, refined foods, video games. Instead, we're like, oh, actually, it feels really good to like jump in the cold ocean and then like go for a little walk at sunset. Like those things can be incredibly like life-giving. And we're not taught to do that in our culture. We're taught to like, hey, self-medicate with a bottle of wine and stay inside and binge Netflix.
Yeah, just put a band-aid.
Yeah.
We're not getting to the root cause.
Yes.
Yes. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being on my show. Can you please share with the listeners how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. I think we would be friends if we could
Yeah.
hang out in real life.
Hey, we're both in California, so we can make
Yeah.
it happen one day.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you guys can find me. My website is findmyselffree.com, and that's where you can find my coaching programs. If you guys, so I believe you said this is going to come out on Friday. So I have just launched my September Balance Challenge. We just started. And for your listeners, if they want to jump in and do a month of cycle syncing, hormone balancing in a group of like-minded community of women who are on the same journey, it's called the Balance Challenge. And I will give your listeners 20% off with the code SHINE. So if you guys go to my website and enter SHINE, you'll get 20% off the course and you can jump in and start learning all about cycle syncing. And then my podcast is Find Myself Free. It's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. And lastly, on Instagram, you can find me it's Find Myself Free, but it's with underscore. So it's find_myself_free.
Hey, I know about those underscores, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I will have everything in the show notes. And thank you so much for offering a beautiful discount to your course. And I'm excited and I want the listeners to take advantage of that for sure. But any last words or thoughts you'd like to share?
Oh, sure. And I have one more resource that's free for your listeners, and it's just a hormone balancing guide. It's kind of like my top 10 tips of things you can start on your own. And that is also on my website. It's called the Hormone Balancing Checklist. So go there. It's a free resource for you guys.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Elly.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Gina. I hope we get to talk again.
For sure, for sure.